Let's talk about something you've probably got in your kitchen right now. Used cooking oil. That leftover stuff in the pan. Well, it turns out this everyday waste is actually at the heart of a huge new national plan in Egypt, a plan to turn a really big problem into a green solution. So think about it. You've just finished frying something. What do you do with that leftover oil? It feels like a simple question, right? But your answer is actually the starting point for a massive and often totally invisible problem. And this problem really begins with how most of us get rid of it. We go for the easy options. They seem harmless enough at the time, but they kick off this chain reaction of damage that ends up affecting everyone's environment and their wallets. Okay, so let's break this down, because these options probably look pretty familiar. Pouring it down the sink? Well, it cools down, gets solid, and sticks to the inside of pipes, creating these huge blockages in the public sewer system. Just tossing it in the trash, it ends up in a landfill, seeping into the ground and polluting soil and water. And selling it to some guy who comes around to collect it? That might seem like you're recycling, but as you're about to see, that path can be incredibly dangerous. Right, so beyond the environmental mess and the money it costs to fix all those clogged pipes, there is a much, much more serious threat, one that hits public health directly. And this is where the story takes a really dark turn. And this is the absolute key. The biggest risk isn't just pollution. It's the fact that this waste oil has a nasty habit of finding its way back to us. A huge chunk of what gets poured out or sold off the books doesn't just vanish. It gets illegally reprocessed and put right back into the food chain.
The practice is known as oil whitewashing. These informal networks collect the used oil, they run it through some really basic filters and chemical treatments to make it look clean again, and then they sell it on the cheap to restaurants or households who have no idea they're not buying fresh oil. What they're actually buying is a product that's chemically breaking down.
And look, this isn't just some theory. Egypt's Waste Management Regulatory Authority puts it bluntly. Reheating this oil over and over creates carcinogenic compounds. In other words, cancer-causing stuff. So stopping this isn't just about managing waste, it's a critical move for public health. But here's where the whole story flips on its head. Egypt's new plan is built on a really radical idea. What if used cooking oil isn't waste at all? What if it's actually a valuable raw material just waiting to be used? And this gets to the heart of what's called a circular economy. So instead of the old model, take, make, and then throw away, you create a loop. The waste from one thing becomes the fuel for something new. You just keep resources in circulation, creating value instead of garbage. And this just lays out that shift perfectly. The old way, used oil was just waste. It created pollution, it was a health risk, and it cost money to deal with. The new vision? It's a resource, a raw material for green energy. It creates economic opportunity and real measurable value. It's a total 180. So how do you make this new vision actually happen? Well, you have to build a whole new system from the ground up. A fully regulated, formal value chain that can safely get that oil from the kitchen to its new life as a green product. So here's how that new system is supposed to work. It's a very clear, controlled process. First, collection. This means licensed companies using proper containers. No more sketchy, informal deals. From there, it goes to regulated storage centers, not some back alley workshop. Then it's treated professionally to meet specific quality standards. And finally, recycling, where it's turned into those valuable new products. Every single step is designed to cut off that illegal whitewashing route for good. Now, for any of this to work, participation is everything. And just look at this breakdown. A massive 65% of all used cooking oil in Egypt comes straight from people's homes. Restaurants and industry are part of it for sure, but this number tells you everything. The success of this entire national plan really depends on getting everyday people on board. So what's the big prize at the end of all this? Why build this huge new system? Well, the goals are incredibly ambitious. They're pointing toward a more sustainable future, powered in part by the very stuff we used to just throw away. The scale of this resource is just immense. We are talking about 500,000 tons of used cooking oil being produced in Egypt every single year. Let that sink in. Right now, most of that is either polluting the environment or, worse, illegally re-entering the food chain. And here is the ambition. At the moment, only about 20% of all that oil is collected formally. The goal of this new national strategy is to get that number up to 75%.
That is a massive leap. It's about turning a huge liability into a strategic national asset.
So what does this asset become? This is the really exciting part. That old cooking oil is the raw material for things like biodiesel. And this is a huge one, sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, which is absolutely essential if we want to make air travel cleaner. It can also be used to make soaps, detergents, and industrial lubricants.
And this isn't some fixed number. This resource is growing, and it's growing fast. Projections show that by 2035, Egypt will be producing over 733,000 tons a year. That huge increase is exactly why getting the system right today is so important. This isn't just about solving a problem we have now. It's about getting ready for a much bigger opportunity in the future.
It really leaves you with a powerful question, doesn't it? What if the answer to a cleaner environment, better health, and a new green industry isn't some complicated, far-off technology? What if it's sitting right there, in a pan of used oil, in millions of kitchens? It's an amazing reminder that sometimes the most powerful solutions are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to stop seeing them as trash and start seeing them as treasure.